Now I'm seeing we are already live, but I'm waiting for you to come and stop by, and I will make the usual operation right over here. Right over here, yes. And yes, now you're in, and now I'm seeing you, Julieta. Welcome, thank you very much for being here. Now, today, we are going to talk about vision, refining our vision in purpose-driven terms. This is a purpose-driven approach because I speak about purpose mostly, and I will consider the vision facility regarding purpose. So, let's begin. As usual, I invite you, please bring your questions, your remarks, your suggestions, thoughts. Bring them onto the comments. I will answer them as soon as possible with all due respect for your content, for your insight. Yes, we will co-create this together if you bring those remarks. So, no further ados, let's start it right away. Let's thinking about vision. What is vision? What do we want to have when we think about refining vision? And maybe refining vision cannot be enough for us. Maybe just refining can't capture the essence of what is needed. Maybe we need to change it altogether. Maybe we need to set it onto other different priorities. Maybe we need to switch lens. Maybe we need to adjust our mirror. Only us can say what is needed. Vision mostly asks for us spectrum, amplitude, range, and then definition, resolution, and then you need to see more of the macro scenario to give the overall, to have the overall picture, so to speak, coupled with attention and grasping of the details of the small stuff that makes all the difference. Like they say, devil is in the details, and so is God. Yes, everything must have that macro and micro approaches combined in their due places, for sure, in order to reveal, in order to propel us forward into the directions we need to take into our own lives. So, when we think about vision, purpose-driven vision, we must understand that for sure we need that focus around purpose. And focus around purpose, as we have been talking in several of these lives, involves mostly three aspects. The first one is the centrality aspect, or the presence, the coming to sense of the intangible dimension of life. And so we having that centered stance onto ourselves from the inside give us the proper balance, equilibrium, equanimity in order to then try to see outside of ourselves to the best way possible. Outside and inside. Yes, that's the second dimension, the dimension of awareness. In the dimension of awareness, then we can understand the details, the dynamics, elements, processes, all the stuff that comes together onto the picture we are having, and to have the proper discernment around it. So that is the rising of the state of centered, and translated that into awareness, looking at the details with the fine resolution and the appropriate spectrum. And the third aspect, in my perspective, here is, of course, the purpose consideration in more deliberate terms. What is that I want to achieve? Do I know what is my life purpose? If not, have I set as an aim to find it? And if I already find it, in what stage of the life cycle of purpose am I in? What did that ask me to do and to be, to have, in order that to make that a reality? What is needed? And we have seen in the Portuguese lives three main disciplines around purpose: the discipline of discovery, discipline of transitioning to purpose after discovery, and the discipline of excellence, mastery of purpose, performance with purpose, purpose driven performance, excellence, results. These three ways of defining, of addressing purpose, define the way we need to refine our own vision. Because if we are on the discovery stage, we need to access a certain type of vision, more explorative, more trying and testing, more adventurer type of vision. Yes, that is more marked. And if we are in the transition phase, we try to build the bridge between our former or current reality and the future reality. We try to put one foot onto the other side, keeping one foot on the other, trying to build the passage point. And then if we are on the excellence stage, we need to make things work in continuum, in continuous terms, keep solid foundations, reinforce those foundations, make practices that devolve as results, and that make us go forward one thing and one role after the other. We are going towards our path of achievement, of fulfillment, of realization, consummation. So those are three different stages on the life cycle of purpose that influence our focus. And now I ask, any questions about it? Please bring your questions. I can clear, make some remarks, extra remarks around your current situation, whatever. So anyway, this is the first thing that I want to share here with you. The purpose issue, the focus issue, around purpose driven vision. The second one is about points of view. About points of view, the point of view that we take is absolutely crucial. Let's imagine that we are considering a mountain. My point of view on the summit is completely different from the ground base point of view, and which is of course even different onto the way, circling, climbing the mountain. So and that is life. And we know it when we are traveling, when we are driving a car. The way we see, the way we check our own angles, it's crucial, it's fundamental for us to drive the vehicle. If we look at the front mirror, we see one thing. If we look at the glass, the lateral mirrors, we see another thing. And that's the same with life. And we must have flexibility of perspective. We must have the willingness to adjust, to change if needed those perspectives. And that's one of the main issues right this moment. Not to say tragedies, considering all the evolvement process of humanity, of so many people who don't adjust, who don't address their baseline views, their own willingness to consider other perspectives, which can be called as empathy also. So, if we are stuck in a place, in a way of seeing things, we tend to get stuck in ways of doing things, of experience life, of having results. Like Einstein said, doing all the same thing over and over again and expect different results is a sign of madness. And so, many times, that's one of the tragedies, so to speak, of humanity, is doing the same thing, the same error over and over again, because the person doing so didn't consider challenging their own point of view, changing them, because it feels frightening doing so, and it can be in a ego perspective, being our own point of view challenged, shaken, can feel like life threatening, and so we tend to cling, to hold on with too much strength, defending ourselves from the attackers of that point of view, from all the different ways of seeing it, without even understanding those. And now we tend to see these many times on social media, for sure, if we think about COVID-19. Now we see several different theories, ways of dealing with the issue, and all types of subjects, some more or less focused on the theme. And because people have difficulty around the thing that it's crucial and that we can call like negative capability. And negative capability is simply the ability of us holding two different, sometimes even opposite perspectives on a subject without choosing one or the other until we find proper evidence for doing so. Many times we cling to a perspective, we cling to a point of view, we cling to a way of doing things, and then by no means we are willing to change it. But that's ultimately to our fault, to our prejudice, to our own disadvantage, because there is no path forward, at least in deliberate terms, without us changing the way we see things. So that negative capability is a suggestion that we should have in place in order to consider changing course and go testing other alternatives to reach our destination wanted, if one of the paths aren't working, one or several paths, because we must, like an inventor, they say that Thomas Edison said, no, I didn't fail 99,000 times. I just find those number of times, I'm sorry, my bad English, I just find those many times ways that didn't work. So I learned about those. I've learned several lessons that are much needed for me to come across to do a final solution that brings the answer to my problem. So this is the main perspective that I want to share right this thing, because this is fundamental for us to go to the third main point that I want to stress here, that is the point of paradigm. The paradigm, it's our world view in a broader sense, if you want to understand it this way. This is the sense I believe it's the most usual regarding purpose. Worldview mostly determines what we believe it's possible and what is not possible, and how do we put ourselves forward in front of life? How do we go for things that we want or not? How do we consider them to be wanted in the first place? Are they allowed to me as a reality or not? Because in my worldview, they are not even an issue. And we can understand this, if I believe, better if we understand an example about evolution. Scientists, anthropologists say that we have gone, in terms of species evolution, that birds came directly from reptiles. And this is a major breakthrough of paradigm. Because reptiles, they don't even have capabilities, transitional linear capabilities for becoming birds. And so, how can they become birds? Well, the science says that they came to a point of singularity. Nobody knows for sure, but the theory goes that they came to a point of singularity, a point of condensation, of pressure from the environment, of several attempts to go beyond their own limitations, those specific species that went into the transition. And then suddenly was a burst, an evolutionary burst that made those birds into birds, those reptiles into birds. So I believe this is a major breakthrough, more than explaining the transition from reptile to birds, but in explaining reality in the scientific community in human terms. And this is making me thinking about a book written by Thomas Kuhn regarding the scientific paradigm. I've forgotten the title of the book right now, but if you check the author, Thomas Kuhn, you can find it. And the author basically states that evolution in scientific theories doesn't come from linear progression, evidence piling up nicely and neatly across time. Progression mostly is quantum leap type of progression. There is a point of singularity that brings forth like an explosion that emanates other forms that allow us to make breakthrough leaps into other forms of reality. And so I believe we must have ingrained this belief in order to understand and accept that everything is possible into our path. Having this meta belief, like having this mental model into our mind, can be truly life-changing, life-savior. I truly believe in this, and so I'm trying to give it to you right this moment. Please accept this life moment. Life has its own agenda. Life is mysterious, no matter how many theories we have, and we understand to the best of our human ability right this time in this civilization, in this point in time, space, and arc, that significant breakthroughs can happen into our lives if we are willing to accept that they are possible. And of course have put our own fair share of effort, time, attention into walking our paths to the best of our ability, of course. Or are we going to believe that those species that made the transition, they're not all into the block, all the reptiles going into all birds? No, there was some sort of natural selection, according to theory, And this matches with our own understanding about the diffusions of innovation theory that I've talked in other Facebook lives. That the branch, if we want to talk it in this way, the branch of the curve, the beginning type of segments, those are the ones who make the start the transition. So if we are in the changing stages of something, like appears to be right now in our society, that we are at the brink of something new as society. All the signals point to it, and it's a common idea in every major area of human knowledge, not just personal or human development type of areas, all sorts of areas. This is a common idea that we are on the verge of something bigger, greater, unpredictable, and completely new to humankind, and even beyond humankind, to the planet, and who knows, to the galaxy and to the universe, according to other theories, more advanced theories, more on the social side of the innovation or innovative, at the same time traditional wisdom type of theories. So the thing is, watch out your paradigm. Understand this is the first factor. The first was the focus. The second was the points of view, more the local points of view, if you understand it as such, local in the sense of individual perspectives or stances. And then the third, the paradigm, the way our world view is set onto our own heads. Yes? And then I bring you the fourth suggestion, is the tools suggestion, the tools. And now I see your comments, Julieta. The strange, unusual becomes the new normal. Perfectly. Yes. Strange, unusual, according to the removed paradigm, to the to be substituted paradigm, to the conventional, to the past way of seeing things. Yes, of course. And if we stuck ourselves into the old one, how can we embrace the new one if we are with our full hands? How can we open, check it? Oh, please, let me have it. Type of attitude. It's very hard. You can't do it in a sense. So our ability to survive, Charles Darwin said, is predicated on our adaptability. The most successful species on this planet were the species that were able to adapt over and over again. And as usual, the ideas of Charles Darwin and other progressive figures were misunderstood, were taken as face value, superficial type of perspective, and they were used to justify competition, aggression, and other conquering type of behaviors. When Charles Darwin said that one of the things of adaptation is precisely cooperation. But let's leave it aside for now. Tools for having vision, refinement, and even radical transformation if needed. First tool that I want to mention: imagining practices. Almost every human development or personal development self-help book has one sort of practice of suggested as exercises, like creative visualization, daydreaming, registering, journaling about dreams, about remarks, about fond memories from infants, etc., etc. Please consider that the time, energy, attention invested in dealing with those are an investment that can bring you incredible results ahead, especially, and we've been talking about this many times, if you coupled those practices, those exercises of books with recurrent action and application in reality, in your reality, not the book reality, your life context reality. So if we activate the pairing reflection, action, reflection, action, reflection, action in recurrent terms, this will release way more resources, riches, that of course if we don't do those, have those habits ingrained onto our practice. So this is the third tool. Imagining practices, no matter what you call it, they are important, because imagination is the best of intelligence, Einstein said, and I tend to agree with him. Maybe not in that specific term. I believe the very best of intelligence is the overall cosmic intelligence that can operate even beyond our own imaginings. But let's give Mr. Einstein his credit, his dues, because he was very proficient in creating models of awareness, of new science, of physics in his case, using his imagination, using metaphors from current life, putting people mounted on sun rays and using those coupled with trains and stations and curves. He was a juggler of images in his own imagination. So we can understand that Einstein put a lot of effort, a lot of weight into imagining practices. So we can do them also. There are a plethora of books around imagination on libraries. You can buy them. Many. Now I recall a specific book, very simple but very to the point book around creative visualization, with this very same name, Creative Visualization, by Mrs. Gawain. I've forgotten the first name now. And this book has several very simple exercises in order to test our own abilities to imagine things in multi-sensorial ways. Not just thinking about seeing with our own eyes, but sensing in our bodies, emotions felt, practices, all sorts of moments, like a multi-sensory type of thing. So this is the first suggestion. The second is the vision boards suggestion that I want you to make. Also very common onto the personal development space, and books and courses, all sorts of materials that you can access. Vision boards mostly put us into the ability of drawing or representing in one way or the other, or picking pictures and printing them and then putting them on physical boards or not, in order to contemplate those visions, or putting those together to create a unified vision of what we want, of what we need to consider. And we can do it on micro or macro terms, in more practical, more abstract terms, or in more productivity, efficiency terms, which tend to be more micro, or with more creative, aspiring terms, if we want to be more macro. I like to use them both. I like to use boards in which I make drawings around my own ideas, my projects, my dreams, yes. And I like to use them also as project checking, marking steps and marking stages, marking milestones and full achievements that I have already done. So I go, for instance, for these transmissions, I have a board with days of the week, and then I write those. I write the titles of the things I want to transmit for the week, and then I go check. I do my planning, my weekly planning, and then I will check it. But it's a flexible process. I don't need to put all the planning all at once. I can register an idea for another week, or I can wait until better ideas come. It's flexible. It's flexible for me. What is important is the act of making a vision into some sort of reality, and writing it in a board is a way of doing so, like writing in a journal. And having the vision, having the idea in front of me with the presence to my senses, to grasp the idea, to put some more flesh and bones onto the idea, to dance with the idea, to be enamored in a way with the idea, to put some more emotion onto the idea, give the richness to the idea. It's a process of incubation, if you prefer so. And so I have those ideas, but the most important thing in terms of purpose for me, and that's the thing I want to stress here, is writing my ideas about my lifelong purpose, the way I perceive it, and my legacy, using purpose statements. I use purpose statements, and that's one of the parts of my job, helping my clients craft purpose statements that really reflect their heart, their soul, their spirit, and empowering them with a personal process that match their own makeup, internal makeup, their own constituency, not my own idea. My own process is very simple. I have lifetime legacy, long-term statement of purpose, medium-term, and short-term. And then I dance with those four, contemplating them daily and adjusting the wording whenever needed, and envisioning a picture of what they could represent in reality. Like many other teachers of personal development space and human development, I tend to make this exercise every single day of contemplating the declarations written on a board. Beyond reading them, I can change the practice depending on my time of the year, my sensitivity, what do I need, what do I feel the energy needs. Sometimes I can write every single day the statement that I feel most significant. Other times I just contemplate those on the board. Other times I erase the board, or I rip the sheet and wait for the vision to come clearer, and then I put the sheet again. The most important thing is to be an ongoing practice with whatever stage of your life purpose process you may be at the time. So if you are in the discovery phase, you must select, what do I feel I really need to start to get more clarity of vision right this moment, and then I focus on that. Is to discover my life purpose. Okay, if so, I will consider the goal. I've made a suggestion on the Portuguese transmissions. I will go ask a question to my subconscious before going to sleep, and then I wake up in the morning. I check if I have dreams. Have I had dreams this night? What do they tell me? I journal those, and then I can ask the question for the day. Well, how can I serve today in a way that is authentic and it's creative, that express my true self, our base definition of life purpose? And then we repeatedly ask that question and repeatedly revisit the answers that I get, the signals that I get from the day, from my own awareness, perspective, observation, consistently, and then I can go forward one time after the other, and then I can craft onto a vision of a pattern of the things that most matter to me, and then I keep changing, revising, refining that vision expressed onto that declaration. So, my dear friends, some of the authors that I would like now for ending this transmission, please bring your questions if you want to. I say you again, one more time. Some references for authors that I love and that I recommend for you to read about getting the range, the spectrum, and the resolution, the definition of vision. One major author, considered one of the greatest philosophers lived this day, Ken Wilber. Ken Wilber is the author of the integral paradigm, if you prefer. Is American philosopher. He has many books. I recommend you Integral Life Practice as the most practical and accessible, simple view with combining theory and practices all the way our human constitution. So he will give you practices and exercise for the physical, the emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions of your life, and you get the broader perspective of how those practices relate with many areas of life that usually aren't taken into consideration on the personal development space. So I really recommend that book, Integral Life Practice. From the guy who's set straight one of the most inspiring and broader outlook on human development in individual and collective terms. If you check the levels of consciousness and the states of consciousness from his books and from his explanations, they are breathtaking, they are wonderful, the way they simultaneously differentiate ways of seeing the world and give us tolerance, compassion, empathy for others in respecting their own personal views, their own ways of seeing the world. And then he matched the spectrum he created with the rainbow colors, considering 12 levels of awareness and matching stages of human society evolution, even civilizations around those. That's very interesting. If you have the will to go down that rabbit hole, is a little bit more theoretical. If you go into the theory beyond the Integral Life Practice book, he has other books like The Spectrum of Consciousness and A Brief History of Everything, Theory of Everything, Integral Philosophy. He has a whole bunch of books you can read if you want to. Then, other suggestions for improving our vision. Arts, culture, it's major. Leonardo da Vinci, Van Gogh, Michelangelo, these guys have said, Albert Einstein, every single great artist, they said the same thing over and over again. See better is learning to notice things, to notice the small things as the larger things of life, starting with the small things, looking at the things in front of us. Look at the table. Look at the chair. Look at the rainbow, the clouds, the tree. Look at the grass blade. Look at it. Look at it. You must, like a Buddhist saying, you must see the grass growing. You must see the grass blade growing. Getting that sense of awareness. And of course, the major, the big one, the inside out observation. But the arts, the I like the classical type of art, the art that brings harmony, the art that portrays a reality with depth and simultaneously inspiration. I like to feel inspired. For me, that's art. I know art has several connotations these days, but art is not, can disturb us, but in the positive sense of it. In my understanding, I'm just sharing my understanding, and we can use a painting, a sculpture, a building, all sorts of human projects and endeavors to enrich our own sense, our own ability to refine our vision. And then, of course, I will put the remark again on the virtuous side of life, especially onto our own relationship with truth. Because if we have, I believe, I'm fully convinced about this, and I will end this live with this idea. Our own relationship with truth will determine our own ability to see it wherever we can. Because our own relationship with this concept of truth in all things, no matter small or big, and this is hard in our society, yes, for sure, will determine our own ability to acknowledge that deeper truth that is our own life purpose. So, my dear friends, those were the suggestions for you. I hope you liked it. Most of all, I hope you do take what you feel useful. Discard the rest. Use what you feel useful. If you need, select one thing, just one thing that you've seen or heard, and put it to the test. Test it. Don't take my word for granted. Test what you are listening here. Go see for yourself. And if it works, perfect. If not, leave it aside. As usual, I would love to get your messages here on platform or by email to julio@juliobarroco.com. If you need some kind of help, please let me know in a session or in a journey. If you want to know more, ask me. I will say it to you with all my pleasure. And for the meantime, please enjoy the weekend ahead. Take good care of yourself. Keep safe. Keep sound. And we'll see you next week. Bye bye. Take care.